over 10,000 years ago, long before anyone called this land Nigeria. The region was a vast stretch of savannas, thick forests, rivers and plateaus. The Niger and Benin rivers flowed freely, shaping the land and carving out paths that early people would later follow. The climate shifted between wet and dry seasons, and the fertile lands supported hunter-gatherers who began to settle and form communities. These early humans moved through natural corridors, lowlands, riverbanks, and mountain passes, settling wherever they found water, food, and shelter. Their settlements would grow into some of the first homes of Nigeria's many people. One of the oldest known civilizations in Nigeria is the Nok culture, dating back to about 3,500 years ago. The Nok people lived in what is now known as Plateau and Kaduna states. They are famous for their terracotta sculptures, detailed expressive faces, and forms that reveal a complex society with religion, art, and social organization. But the Nok weren't alone. Evidence shows there were earlier people before them, Pre-Nok cultures, who used stone tools, buried their dead with care, and carved symbols into the walls of caves. These ancient people were farmers, blacksmiths, and early city builders. We also find deep traces of human life in Taruga iron smelting, Nok Valley, the ancient Ife tools, and the bronze treasures of Igbo Ukwu. Each of these discoveries shows that Nigeria has been home to human innovation for thousands of years. In places like Dunse Mesa, Benikudu, and the Biu Plateau, archaeologists found rock paintings, carvings, and sacred caves. These were places where early people lived, worshipped, and recorded their stories. The art on the rocks shows animals, rituals, hunting scenes, and symbols of fertility and spirituality. Some of these sites are over 8,000 years old, proving that Nigeria has been the center of life, thought, and culture long before modern history began. And soon, the land became filled with thousands of communities. The tribal part of Nigeria's story begins when the earliest communities grew into the tribes we know today. Their origins are connected through trade, migration, and memory, and together they shape the identity of the land. The Igbo people trace their deepest origins to the Uri kingdom, one of the oldest in West Africa. Around 1,100 years ago, Uri became a center of religion, peace, and tradition. But Igbo roots go even deeper, as seen in the Igbo Ukwu bronzes, detailed artifacts showing the wealth, trade, and advanced skills. Igbo oral history speaks of Eri, a divine figure sent by Jukun god to start the first civilization in Igbo land. Eri settled near the river Anambra, and his descendants became priests, kings, and founders of Igbo towns. This ancestor lived long before Uri was established, possibly over 1,500 years ago. The Igbo society was unique. It had no central ruler. Villages ruled themselves through councils and age groups. Religion centered on ancestors, gods of nature, and the power of the earth. Their calendar followed four sacred market days: Eke, Orie, Afo, and Nkwo. which still guide life today. The Yoruba people trace their roots to Ile-Ife, the spiritual heart of their civilization. Oral tradition tells of Oduduwa, a leader sent from the east or heaven to found the first kingdom. His children would become kings across Yoruba land, in Oyo, Ife, and beyond. Oduduwa may have lived around 1000 years ago. Some say he came from Egypt or Mecca. Others say he emerged from within. But what is clear is that by the 11th century, Ife was an advanced city with sacred kingship, bronze casting, and deep spiritual beliefs. Oyo, later founded by Oromiyan, a son of Oduduwa, became an empire that ruled trade routes, built cavalry forces, and influenced much of West Africa. Lagos, once known as Eko, was first settled by the Awori people, a Yoruba subgroup. It later came under the influence of the Benin Kingdom, who installed rulers. Over time, it became a cultural mix, but the original land and people were Yoruba. In the north, the Hausa people trace their origin to Daura. Legend says Bayajidda, a hero from the east, killed a serpent and married the local queen. Their descendants formed the Hausa Bakwai, 7 ancient city-states like Kano, Katsina, and Zaria. The Kanuri people founded the Kanem-Borno Empire near Lake Chad. This kingdom began over 1000 years ago and became a center of Islamic learning and Saharan trade. They built walled cities, palaces, and schools, and had contact with the Arabic world before European contact. In the Middle Belt, many groups came from the east and south centuries ago. Some say over 2000 years back. The thieves speak of crossing the Cameroon Islands to reach the Benue Valley. The Jukun were early founders of Kararafa Confederacy, a powerful but lesser-known state. These tribes honored river spirits, wore masks in ritual dances, and told history through storytelling and festivals. Their cultures blended over time, creating a diverse bed of traditions between north and south. The Ijaw have lived in the Niger Delta for thousands of years. Oral history and archaeology show they were expert fishermen, boat builders, and traders. But 500 years ago, kingdoms like Boni, Nembe, and Kalabari were ruling the waterways. They traded with Europeans and had strong political systems. Their religion honored water spirits like Egbesu and worshipped ancestors through sacred groves. Nigeria is home to hundreds of familiar but ancient tribes. The Efik developed Calabar as a trade city with their own writing system. The Ishekiri founded the Warri Kingdom and had Portuguese contact by the 1005s. The Ibibio, Urhobo, Ebira, Gbagi, and others each have long histories and rich traditions, often overlooked but never forgotten. Before colonial times, Nigeria's tribes interacted through trade, marriage, war, and alliance. The Hausa traded kola nuts with Yoruba. Igbo merchants met Ijaw traders at river ports. The Middle Belt became a melting pot where many groups mixed. There was no Nigeria, but there was already a shared space of contact and exchange. And then, in 1914, the British merged the northern and southern protectorates. A new name, Nigeria, was born. But tribes had existed for centuries. Colonial rule ignored old borders, forced tribes into new regions, and replaced chiefs with colonial officers. Yet, the people kept their customs, hidden in music, rituals, and memory. Our past is still with us, in the names we carry, the languages we speak, and the stories our grandparents tell. The marks still dance, the market still open on sacred days, ancient gods are still whispered to under the moonlight. Origin stories are sacred. They may not always be literal, but they hold the truth of a people's spirit. From Oduduwa to Eri to Bayajidda, each name carries history, belief, and identity. History doesn't destroy myths, it gives them meaning. To understand where we stand, we must know where we began. The story of Nigeria did not begin in 1914. It began in the footsteps of Nok farmers, in the shrines of Ile-Ife, in the markets of Daura, and in the sacred groves of Uri. Long before colonizers and oil, Nigeria was, and still is, a land of many peoples with deep roots. So, when we say we are Nigerians, we carry the blood of the first peoples who shaped this land long before the world gave it a name. This is their story, and it is our story, and it continues.